this at Broadway Con, yay! And did the shows that we see, were they perfect or not? The perfect, Janine Nina Treven's The Perfect Monster for TADA, with music and lyrics by Deirdre Broddick, is about Sybil, who feels invisible at school. So she tries to create the perfect monster to be her BFF to make Mary, Preston, and Charlie jealous of her. Her plan backfires when she creates Perfection, who is made up of Mary's stylishness, Preston's sportiness, and Charlie's funniness, and makes everyone feel bad, including Sybil. Sybil monsters rally around Sybil even though she never thinks they are good enough. There's all these totally different monsters, but in the end, her monsters teach Sybil the truth about real friendship. Asa Thornton outdid herself with the very ingenious costumes on Anton Flovik's inventive set, and this gets a major happy face. There were like all these cool monsters, and the kids are so talented.
In Milo Kramer's Cute Activist, the greatest evil is embodied by David Greenspan's landlord as Dracula character. He's determined to build new skyscrapers and evict and or destroy renters and their derelict buildings. Although activism is a forbidden word in this dystopian tale, people are willing to risk it, albeit in masks. They seem very confused about their issues, and the main character, 26-year-old Jen, played by Madeline Wise, is conflicted and neurotic about this and many other things. She's currently dating Gil, Ronald Pete, a young black, nurturing would-be feminist. There's an unhappy waitress, Annie Hank, and a manager, Elizabeth Kenny, of a chic restaurant attended by Jen and Gil, who live in this, the waitress and manager live in a derelict building in a no-home zone. I couldn't really make much of this all over the place production, but I enjoyed aspects of it, including the clever animal puppets.
I liked this a little bit more than you did. It was definitely WBE, weird but enjoyable, with an unfortunate WTF ending. But every time David Greenspan did his silk walk, I was in stitches. The man just cracks me up. He was brilliant. In fact, I was wondering if I would have liked this without such a skillful cast that understood the nuances and managed to mind the comic gold where normally I would just be scratching my head. Jen and Gil had the strangest first date. Talk about mixed signals. The waitress and manager had a sweet relationship, caught up in having to serve the entitled likes of Jen. I'm not sure what point Milo Kramer was making, but once again we are caught up in dystopian hijinks. Even the set was confusing. Why the Christmas tree, I kept wondering. Also, the TV had words that had nothing to do with the scenes, but the puppets were highly entertaining. I was also excited to see Madeline Wise, as I had just seen her in New George's Tanya in The Getaway Van, and she's a remarkable actress who can sing. It depends on your sense of humor whether you will enjoy this or not, but I'm giving this a mixed face plus.
And I'm giving it a mixed face minus.
Marcus Gardley's X, or Betty Shabazz versus the Nation, uses the conceit of a trial setting for Betty Shabazz, played by the brilliant Rosalind Ruff, to accuse the Nation of Islam for assassinating her husband Malcolm X. Louis X, better known as Louis Farrakhan to us, acts as a defense attorney. And various witnesses are brought forth, and through them we learn about Malcolm X and his family, his ideals, and his ultimate end. Since I didn't know too much about Malcolm X, I found this quite fascinating, especially the way it was staged, acted, and directed as Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. This was done so subtly that it didn't even hit me to the end that this was Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. I'm having a seizure, which made that boring play much more enlightening. My only quibble is with the ending, which refuted the whole premise of the play. The acting and singing were superb. It felt more like a documentary than a play, and I give this a major happy face. Go see this.
And until the flood, Dale Orlando Smith enacts a kaleidoscope of voices in the aftermath of the shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. We're made aware of the fear felt by both young black men like Michael and the white policeman who shot him. We hear from black and white school teachers as well as religious figures and others who work and live in the community. we hear of anger and compassion, understandings and misunderstandings. I was most impressed by the woman Universalist preacher praying for both young black and white officers, and the white real estate owner who spoke out against his father's brutality, but perpetuated the same brutality against his young son. Despite the lack of answers or hopeful resolution, I still felt reassured by Orlando Smith's ability to listen and present all sides. Although the crisis seems to be a persistent state, the communal sharing of humanity afforded by Orlando Smith's theatrical offering seems to promise a more aware and better educated future. She's a writer of unusual intelligence and a performer of extreme talent.
I just love Dale Orlando Smith ever since Yellow Man. I think she's just the most brilliant writer there is. And I love the fact that more than one person made the statement saying, I'd rather have a racist pig than a liberal. It was like, and the way she brought the thing, it wasn't like all black and white. I mean, there was a total gray area here. And it was more about the community than about, because Michael Brown was, a thief and, not a good person to begin with.
But still had no reason to be shot.
Exactly. So it's like, there was sympathy for the cops, sympathy for Michael Brown, sympathy for the family. There was sympathy all around. There was blame all around because they were all like on a level playing field because they were sort of both bad, both good. So it just made it not the usual version of the story.
Still, there's a lot more bad on the side of, like shooting the kids.
Oh, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to get
But
angry
still,
letters.
it was great to get, like a sense of every person has their reasons.
Yes.
And it's somebody's listening to them, which I think is really what Dale Orlando Smith is great at.
I'm sorry, I'm extremely tired and I didn't realize what I was saying. I did not mean to imply like Trump that there's blame or what was the thing?
Good people on all sides, like Nazis, are good too.
Yeah, no, I did not mean that at all. Please, 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 do not think that at all. I was just saying that, we're getting both sides of it, which was interesting for a change.
In Adrienne Kennedy's He Brought Her Heart Back in a Box, Chris, Tom Pasinka, and Kay, Juliana Canfield, have both lost their mothers. It's summer 1941 in Georgia, and Chris is like the son of a very rich family. His grandfather is the one who designed the town and separated black and white areas. His father set up this school for coloreds and also fathered some of the children in the school. So it's a place where black and white have mixed in very crossing the lines ways. But the love between Chris and Kay seems to be very real. She's a very beautiful, light-skinned, colored girl. On the other hand, the title, He Brought Her Heart Back in a Box, suggests Snow White, the heart of the deer brought back by the hunter, also Snow White in her glass coffin. And it relates to Kay's mom, who died a week after Kay was born. And we don't know whether she was murdered, whether she committed suicide. Was her father the killer, the white man who fathered her? We don't really know. But there's a legend in the town that the father brought the heart back in a box and put it in the cemetery and it disappeared. So this is very highly charged material, but beautifully presented in a gorgeous production. And the story reminds me a little bit of Tennessee Williams' writing. So I think this may be the play of the year. I'm giving it a major happy face.
The Added Company presents Michael Weller's Jericho, which is taken Ferenc Molnare's play Lilium, which is set in 1909 Budapest, Hungary, and now it's transformed to Coney Island, 1932 during the Depression. And this is the musical Carousel is based on this, which Rodgers and Hammerstein set in New England, 1873. The plot is basically the same for all three versions. Jericho, in this case, is, Billy Bigelow. He's an arrogant carousel barker with an eye towards the ladies, which doesn't sit well with the owner of the carousel. And when he makes eyes at Miss Julie, she's incensed and she fires him. And despite the urgings of her best friend, Julie stays behind with Jericho and loses her job too. Here they end up with a relationship of Jericho. They own a photo shop and her son fancies Julie, but to no avail. Now, unemployed Jericho falls in with no good tink, and they plan to rob this guy. The consequences makes him have to redeem himself to Julie and his daughter Lisa. Is this wife abuser, selfish bum redeemable? It's always been a very problematic play when the main character is so repulsive in his behavior. I mean, Mr. Weller does try. And the guy, Vasile Fluter, has that bad boy swagger as Jericho that some females find so attractive. And Hannah Sloat has that skilly innocence that makes you believe she can stay in love with this wretched man. I found Jerzy Grzydowski's constant presence on the stage to be rather annoying. I know he was supposed to be the narrator of sorts, but he was too distracting. And some of the actors were uneven, and it didn't help that they basically stayed in the same costume. Despite these flaws, it is still worthwhile seeing this play as a precursor for seeing the musical Carousel, which is returning to Broadway this spring. So I give it a mixed face plus.
The Mint is reviving Stanley Hogan's Kendall Lakes, and Hogan died when he was only 32, so he was a really interesting writer, and this is a play from 1912, but he didn't really fully develop yet. In this play, a mill worker's son, a mill owner's son, and a mill working girl have a holiday together without being married. And when the parents find out, the idea is the mother of the girl is pushing for that this would be a great marriage, her daughter marrying a rich man. And the mill owner's father is willing to do it, and it seems like a typical situation until finally at the end, the girl gets her say. And what she has to say is very modern and very shocking for 1912. I thought the production wasn't quite as sparkling as a lot of Mint productions are, but it's still a play worth reviving and very nicely done and acted. I'm giving it a happy face minus.
This is Kristen Hardwick's review. The Civilians Theater is bringing The Undertaking by Steve Cosson to 59 East 59th Street. In a seemingly mystical work, questions of mortality in today's age are unveiled as the difficult layers of dying are brought to light. Set in the present and doing research for his newest play, playwright Steve enlists a close-to-death survivor to help him further understand what it was like to be on the brink of death. She will do the interview only if Steve agrees to share his research findings with her. In doing so, vignettes of video projections, impersonations, and audio recordings, Steve discovers that Lydia, that's the person, is not the only one being enlightened, which may be beneficial to him beyond just his play. The well-written script is interesting, and the intermingling of dialogue of the cast is clever. Lighting changes flank the present storytelling with pre-recorded interviews, which keeps the story easy to follow. The talented Mrs. Selick and Mr. Dominguez portray the various interviewees with their impersonations of said characters being quite realistic. In my opinion, the actor and the hospice nurse are two of the really good impersonations. Now, near the middle of the amply timed 80-minute show, one may find it easy to disengage in the story as the present-day characters, Steve and Lydia, spend lengths of time on their self-involved banter. Hang in there. Everything said and seen is there for a reason and well worth the wait, and Kristen gives us a happy face. Original cast member of Ain't Misbehavin', Andre DeShields, has choreographed and directed at New Jersey PAC, and I got a chance to interview him and the ensemble. Are with
Zurin, Villanueva.
Borris, York.
And Rheaume, Crenshaw.
And you're doing Ain't Misbehavin'.
Yes, kind of like give a little bit. It's funny because it is entertaining but also educational in a way. So we get to run the gamut of all emotions in this one piece. So it's
For me personally, it means the definition of Black joy and excellence, and you know, it makes me proud to be Black.
Like, it's just Fast Waller's music is so joyful. He's so funny. And just knowing that that is our basis from what we're performing under.
Man of the truth, and so all of his work will always resonate. It will always be timeless because it's so real and so honest.
I think he's relevant because his music is about the human experience, all facets of it. But
it's so truthful. Everyone understands, like, oh, you stole my girl. Everyone understands it's payday. Everyone understands partying. Everyone understands each one of these things. And it's
with Johmaalya, Adelekan,
David Samuel.
Wow, I mean, Fats Waller wrote this huge songbook of American standards, really, that everyone knows. All the wonderful jazz artists have covered his songs, and they're starting to be covered even again by current artists. So it's just a wonderful mix of music that most of it is fun and mischievous and sassy, a little sexy, and and then some of it really digs deep and kind of touches on some of the pain and angst that's mixed in there, and that's a nice thing.
Is the resurgence of music speaking to political events and to the black experience, as hip-hop is doing today. I think Fats Waller did in his time, and other artists of his generation did in their time, to talk about things in ways that were something that their people would get, so that they could have an outlet to experience those things through the music, and be healed in a way.
Right.
And I think that's what this musical does, and kind of brings to light to a modern audience to say, oh, nothing new. Like, this happens.
Right.
It still happens.
It really does speak to the current events of today and where things are today, in a fun way, but in a not so fun, we're going to have to talk about the thing you don't want to talk about, but in a way that I think does bring about healing and a path forward.
I think that Andre brings to the table an understanding of what it means to have a legacy and what it means to pass that legacy on, and I think that he's charging us as the next generation of artists to pass that legacy on. And Johmaalya has done the show before, and so she's guiding me through, she's passing on her own little legacy of, like, this is what we do in the show.
We are with
DeShields.
and you are.
I carry the history of that show with me. It's in me. Ken is in me. Ken Page is in me. Nell Carter is in me. Amelia McQueen is in me. Whom did I miss? Charlene Woodard is in me. And of course, Andre is in me. So when I present myself to this young company as their director and choreographer, I just open myself up like a wardrobe. Say, open this drawer. Open this door. And the treasure that's there, take it, use it, it's yours. Ain't Misbehavin is the solution to divisiveness. It's a reminder that we are not alone. And we mustn't want to be alone. It's a global world, whether you believe it or not. Boundaries are elusive. We learned that from the natural world. Try to tell the wind it can't blow across the earth. Try to tell the water it can't flow to where it's headed. Try to tell the sky that it cannot be blue. Try to tell the earth that it isn't our mother. That's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. So those of us in the world of arts who are effective storytellers understand that it is our responsibility to remind everyone that when you need a question answered, when you need a crisis resolved, when you need a burden lifted, when you need a yoke to be broken, come to us. That's why we're here. To entertain, yes. To enlighten, yes. To deliver some ecstasy, yes. But most of all, to serve. And whether you believe it or not, or can articulate it or not, that's why you come to the theater.
This is Noah Miller's review of Trinkets. Paulie Alexander's Trinkets is a nightclub that offered temporary sanctuary. It's a heartfelt, dramatic musical about the lives of 4 transsexual prostitutes in New York during the 90s. The play centers on the hardcore lives these young trans women led and also on their hopes and dreams. It's a story of bonding, friendship, helping one another, encouragement, and the need to do what is right. The singing and musical numbers in general were very lackluster. The actors were incapable of expressing the raw emotion and pathos one might expect from a play dealing with such a difficult and heavy subject. But perhaps that is the very point. Perhaps what they were doing was being real. Real life is not a polished, flawless play. Hope is what real people try to hold on to and gets you through these hard times. With all that in mind, Trinkets sends a message of hope straight to the audience and heart, and what could be more real, and Noah gives this a mixed face, and there's a heck of a lot more on the Facebook page. I went to York Theater to see Musicals and Mufti's Hallelujah Baby. My review will be on the Facebook page, but in the meantime, I got a chance to interview people.
Hi, how's everybody? I'm Gerry McIntyre. It's the journey of the African-American struggle. And, you know, it goes from like 100 years. It starts at like 1910 and goes to today. So I think the African-American struggle is still going on. So the struggle is still going on, and I think that's what the message of the piece is. The message is still resounding. Everyone at the end feels the same thing. It's universal. So I'm hoping that there will be a resolution very soon. That's what I.
And the thing is, it was
4 Jews writing about the African-American struggle, and they gave them a lot of flack, but they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. I mean, this story is prevalent, and it's all about struggle. The struggle is universal. It doesn't have any color. So that's what's amazing to me. It's silver lining, and I love to, you know, leave the theater and be optimistic.
Here we are with
Jarran Muse.
Through the years, you keep chasing this hard-nosed woman. What keeps you after her?
Oh, there's nothing that doesn't keep me from her. Her hair, her flair, her style and grace. I think she's a powerful woman. I think I see that she's an independent woman, so she was very ahead of her time, and I like that. She's not content with just being a maid and doing what everyone thinks she should do in terms of a career. So because she's headstrong, I think he likes that most about her. And I mean, I know she tries to adapt to what Clem is wanting in her own independent way. So it is a give and take, and I think that's why they do make a good little power couple. But
my name is Stephanie Umo. What I gotta say that you know, not a lot has changed. I think that this musical is still absolutely relevant to today. It's speaks to today's audiences. Will speak to today's audiences differently than it did in 1967, but I don't think a lot has changed. So I think it needs to be done. I think it needs to be done right now. Socially, politically, the environment that we're in right now, it is an important musical, and I think I would hope to see it done somewhere.
And also what's interesting, there's this interracial couple, I mean, which is very shocking back in 1967. And you actually were leaning towards the white guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are those issues as well. And although we've seen that in many shows, that conflict before in other shows, it's just interesting to me how, without giving anything away, she doesn't really end up with him, and with either of them. She chooses herself, and that is extremely empowering for a woman to make that choice. And I don't know, especially in those decades and those eras. So
and also the two men are actually friends, so it's a very interesting dynamic.
It is an interesting dynamic. I've never seen a show like this before. It's just a really good time to sit back and listen to this wonderful music, wonderful cast singing this beautiful, beautiful music. So
you and Vivian have got the look down.
Yes, we do. We have such wonderful chemistry. It's really easy with her. It's an honor to work with her. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Vivian Reed, but So to play her daughter and opposite her is an absolute honor, and I have so much to learn. So I'm so
Vivian Reed. Because I think young people should get out, see what's on stage, see what's happening, especially in a musical like this with the messages that occur in this musical. I think it's important.
And this was.
But who would have thought that in 2017, the 21st century, that we would still have a lot of that? The same things that happened in the 60s, we are now going through that again. I mean, that is really unbelievable. Ask everyone to come to the York Theater and support. We have a few more shows left, and we hope you'll come out. It's a fun, fun evening.
Sasha Clark reviews June Daniel White's Delta in the Sky with Diamonds, or maybe not, on the Facebook page. But in the meantime, she feels despite the best efforts of this top-notch ensemble cast and some amusing moments, overall this piece needs more work, and more on the Facebook page, obviously. Now where to find the plays mentioned on the show, and the reviews, of course, are on the Facebook page. And the full interviews of Hallelujah Baby are on the Facebook page, and also for Ain't Misbehavin'. There's musical excerpts you can listen to also. And our very own Leslie DeLeo is appearing as Miss Prism in The Importance of Being Earnest. Best musical theater events, the Apple Room, where I saw Jackie Hoffman and all these other wonderful, in this beautiful room. And there's more musicals and Mufties from Julie Stein. Encores is back with Hey Look Me Over. And musicals tonight is doing The Boys from Syracuse. And Richard Skipper is celebrating his birthday at the Laurie Beachman on February 11th. And now I have to go through these, I'm sorry, very quickly because we're running out of time. Talking Band is it here, and Life Jacket Theater is doing America is Hard to See. And Irish Reps got Edna Welsh's Disco Pigs, and there's Jimmy Titanic, lots going on at TNC and La Mama. The review for The Cult will be on February 1st. These are closed shows that we saw. Oh, the Beach Cafe is this wonderful new cabaret. I saw Karen Akers there. And don't forget to pick up your Performing Arts Insider, the Cultural Heartbeat of New York City. Our next show is February 17th. And again, everything is going to be on the Facebook page.